Let's get started.
You're welcome to the show. Today's episode is the one we've been waiting for. I mean, this is the one that we've been looking forward to, building up to, where we discuss the usefulness of the idea of God and we discuss its nature. What is God? Is it useful to even ask if God exists? Why did we create God? There are many who believe that the mind created God, we created God, others believe God created us. Tauya is an expert. He was part of a priesthood formation. You helped people find their way to God. And you found your way away from God. Up to your point where you became an apatheist and you say you don't find the idea of God interesting enough to even talk about. So, kuna vaya vanoti kuna Mwari, vanoti Mwari is the ultimate truth. I hope you're listening because this episode is going to challenge the very core of what you believe in. Tauya, let's start, Baba.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting if I can take people through my journey.
Yeah,
from being atheist up to from being an atheist. Like any other person, I grew up in an environment where everyone is expected to go to church and expected to be atheist. Luckily or unluckily, I grew up in a union of people of different faiths. My mother being a Catholic, my father being a traditionalist. So normally people or children, they follow the mother. My mother wasn't that a person who would force me to go to church. Yes, I know my sister was a bit being forced to go to church. But inini ndasingaforcing. Ndakatozoita kuinda ndega nditaona that pressure kuti vamwe vapana vezera nguva vachiinda. Then when I started to go, I would stop time and again, but when I started to go and when I was serious, then I become extremely religious back then that I said no, I have to be a priest. So I then went into formation. It's the priesthood formation. Being in priesthood formation helped me to look into the church from inside its walls. That is when I started to move from being atheist into an agnostic. From agnostic into a somehow not too militant, but a militant atheist, but not too militant, where you would feel that you should throw religion without people who believe in God. And then with the passage of time, I slowly became atheist. Where I say, I don't care whether God exists or not, but what is important is human relations.
Yeah, that's very true. What really matters is human relations. But can we truly exist? We don't care about that question because I think
we can actually exist in peace because the good part about being an apatheist is that you are running away from an millennium years of argument between those who say God is there and those who say it's not there. And nothing is going to be achieved. And this argument will go on and on and on and on. But there are other pertinent issues we have to address.
Like how do we coexist?
Yes, how do we coexist and how do we respect each other's views? And I think majority of humanists in this age and time should actually become apatheists. And I think majority of them are becoming so.
Like
if I'm looking at, is it like?
Continue. We'll get to that.
If you look at the theme of Humanistic conference, it is going to be in Singapore.
Oh,
What is it?
some interfaith dialogue.
Interfaith dialogue. And you would wonder, why would humanism have something to do with the interfaith dialogue? Which means humanism is saying, let us be on the table of dialogue. Let us be contributing our part in the harmony of the site. Let us give religion the respect it deserves. We are not giving it an unchallenged way to do whatever they want with people, but let us respect it, because there's something which religion contribute towards people.
You keep saying that point. Like, just because something contributed ABC, does that mean that contribution is still valuable? Or some contributions may not be needed? But I guess that's a conversation we can keep having, and we'll probably repeat what we have done already. But I think let's go back to the nature of God. Are you comfortable answering the question? Do you believe that God exists? In a yes or no?
Right. Such questions are normally not answered with a yes or no.
Tease about Peter's
Such questions are not answered with a yes or no, because most of the time it depends. What do you mean by does God exist?
All right, let's start there. Okay, what do we mean by? Are we gonna break it down the classic way? What do you mean by do you?
No. I'm concentrating on the word existence. God exists, yes, and no at the same time.
Matanga.
So when you say he exists, if we can,
or the idea of it,
people they argue that you can't discuss what is not there. At least it exists as a mental concept. So it is there. It exists as a mental concept.
Right? Is it a mental concept? Okay, you say, okay, we agree that God exists as a mental concept.
Yes.
But does he exist as a physical phenomenon, as something that we can interact with on the physical plane?
On the physical plane, again, it might seem as if I'm playing
on the material plane, so to speak.
It might seem as if I'm playing with words, okay? Because I said it depends on what you mean by existence. Again, it depends with what you mean by God.
The usual, the anthropomorphic thing, right? Mari musikalanu. A super consciousness that is responsible for our existence, the one that say, let us make men in our own image. Does that thing?
Yeah, exist? But that one, it varies from one person to another. There are people who worship their own conscience. There are people who worship certain ideologies.
Yes.
For example, Marxists would actually treat Karl Marx as a god.
No, they don't. I used to be a Marxist. Not really something I'm proud of, but I used to be a Marxist, but we didn't treat him as a god. He just a fellow human being came up with.
If you say, let us talk of God as he is portrayed by Christians, yeah, that one is a different question.
Okay.
And it raises a lot of questions, because the way he's portrayed as omnipotent, omnipresent, and a number of things. So the Christian God is problematic.
Nonsensical. That's the way Dawkins would use. Like, it's nonsensical.
It's problematic in the sense that you'd walk into the street, you'd find a blind person begging, singing and praising the same very God who has the power to help. Then when I help that blind person, I feel like I'm more moral than their God.
Yeah, because
their God is claimed to have power. It's the power he can that make this guy see. No, I don't have the power. I cannot make this guy see, but I can give you $1. That's why I'm saying it's problematic, because it's being said to be powerful. But it's not showing that it's powerful. And it's being said to be merciful, but it's not being merciful. So it's problematic.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's being, people say prayers when they say he knows what they want before when they say it. I think that is where the Jehovah's Witness took their concept. They don't pray. They say our God knows what we want before we say it. They don't pray Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, damn.
They don't. They say God knows what we want before we even say it. So if we are talking of a Christian God, it's problematic.
So which God is not problematic?
The gods are so many. It depends. We can't discuss all the gods.
Of course.
That is, but we are concentrating on Yahweh. Yahweh is problematic because Yahweh is the one who was somehow naive. I don't think it's a good term to use because I might offend some people. But it was somehow naive, especially in the situation of Egypt.
Mm. Yeah, I get this balance.
Where is it said then later on doing all those things to prove his
like why
power.
would you I have a
sometimes when he
yeah.
wanted to kill the firstborn, he was killing the firstborn even of every animal, even the innocent animal. And so I think if majority of Christians today, I think they should actually see that the Bible probably makes the God they worship petty and small-minded, if I am to use Dawkins' words. But unfortunately or fortunately, the people who don't care about all those contradictions, they live their life centered around
it
God.
is a
Centered around God. Well, if it makes them good, if it makes them to live a better life, let them be. I live my life as if the point of arguing whether God exists or doesn't exist, it doesn't matter. But if it makes sense and meaning to one's life, let it be.
If it makes you contribute, be a better member of society, then
let it be. The authenticity of it is another thing. But if it can control you, if it can help you to be a better person, be a better person. And I think that led to, I mentioned it previously in another episode, I and his Ali would actually say, yeah. It makes me better to think that there is something than there is nothing. As an apatheist, it's not a question I'm willing to answer whether there is not something or there is nothing. But probably as an apatheist, maybe a version of a God which I can actually take is the God of Baruch Spinoza.
And who's that?
The God of Baruch Spinoza is allows you to explore and enjoy studying, going to caves, whatever. It's not the one who stays in
watching
in a certain place watching you, but he's saying do whatever you feel it's use your conscience. In other words, the God of Baruch Spinoza is worshipping your conscience. What is your conscience telling you? Follow it. So, and what is the measure of knowing what your conscience is telling you is whether it's bad or good? Because someone might ask, because people have different conscience. The people with erroneous conscience whatsoever. But if you don't want to be beaten, don't beat other people. So whenever you want to do something, if you ask yourself, if someone would do this to me, would I like it?
Sounds like you're quoting Jesus. Do unto others.
No, I'm not quoting Jesus, but there are some people who actually existed before, way back before Jesus, like Buddha.
Of course.
They had the same concept. So it's like a concept which is universal. It belongs to humanity, not to.
It belongs to the humanists.
So yeah, Jesus was a wonderful person.
Was he a humanist?
Was a wonderful person. I think he was.
Was he a humanist? Like
I think he was.
Who got carried away?
But I don't think he got away. But I think the way he was so practical. I mean, the way he's presented in scripture, he was so practical. He was not closed-minded.
Was he practical when he said turn the other cheek? That's not very practical. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's not very practical.
No, it is very practical.
I can't love my neighbor as I love myself. I am the center of my affection.
Alright, when he said turn another cheek, he didn't mean literally, I'm sure. He was trying to reverse the Mosaic law, where he say an eye for an eye.
An eye for an eye, yeah.
That one, according to Mahatma Gandhi, it leaves the world full of blind people.
Yeah, that's true.
So, turning a cheek, he was trying to say, don't revenge. Try to teach the person a lesson. But if he meant it literally, he might have, when Pairo Abdondo or well, he might have turned the cheek. But unfortunately, he was actually slept and just we couldn't know where he could just tell me.
No. Anyways, I don't really care much about that stuff, but I think the biggest problem that we have is that we have people who take the Bible literally, right? And we have people who take the Bible as if it's a book that is full of stories that we have to study and learn human behavior on. And I think some atheists have a tendency of taking the Bible literally when it suits them, sort of like cherry picking. And again, Christians do the same thing as well. How do you perceive the Bible when you interact with the Bible? You mentioned that when you went to the church and then you changed, if something happened to you there. What happened to you there, and how did it change the way you perceived the Bible?
Yeah, the problem is when you treat the Bible is not a scientific book, it's not a history book, it's a book of faith. So you can't refer to the Bible when you're talking of science. You can't refer to the Bible when you're talking of history.
What do you mean when you say the Bible is a book of faith? What does that mean?
It is meant to serve a particular purpose, and that particular purpose is to nourish the Christians' faith. So it's there for faith and moral is to be referred as a document where when they're driving their morals. Although Old Testament is a bit nasty.
So chinhu chakagadziriwa to keep you thinking within the framework of Christianity and not outside of it.
Yeah, of course.
So whether that is useful or true, it's not important. It's just meant to keep you locked in.
It's actually useful even to people who are not Christians. You can draw lessons from it.
Yeah, that's true.
You can draw lessons from it. You can draw lessons.
But its main purpose is to keep you locked in.
Yeah, it depends with how you take it, because it didn't fall from heaven, if I'm to use the language of the Christians, the way it is. It was a document at the Council of Jerusalem. Like, this book should be in the Bible, this one shouldn't be, this one should be in the Bible, this one shouldn't be.
What was the Council of Jerusalem, and where did this happen? Where, when, who was there?
In the early Christian church, whenever there is an argument or whenever people don't agree on a particular thing, they would call for a council. So these books were different manuscripts. So let us put this thing together. Message good to why. Then by then they were so limited to the extent that they thought that only inspired books were the ones written in Aramaic and Hebrew. So that was the criteria which they used to accept certain books into the Bible. All the books which were written in Greek were not accepted, were not taken. Why? Because they said Greek is not a language of God. Because in Greece there were a lot of philosophers who were challenging a lot. But unfortunately the finding of Dead Sea Scrolls actually changed the people's view toward these Greek books. Because if you look at the Bible, there's the Bible known the Apocrypha and Mama Church. Apocryphal means rejected. There are certain books which were rejected, the Council of Jerusalem. But the Catholic Church, she said in its wisdom, they later on
in its wisdom, in her wisdom.
So in her wisdom, yeah, it's I think it's.
I'm just excited with the fact that you're calling it wisdom.
It's demeaning. Yeah, in her wisdom, they added the books which they call deuterocanonicals.
What?
Deuterocanonicals, which means later on accepted.
Oh.
So also the discovering of Dead Sea Scrolls, mabhuku ainzai akanyorwa in Greek. They were not in Greek. They were translated from Hebrew and Aramaic. Which is a challenge and a sign that Christianity is a human-made religion.
Yeah, I like that. Christianity is a human-made. I don't think they'll like it. I don't think.
I think Christians who actually read it, they know this. But only those who listen to them.
So Christianity is a man-made system that was designed. So there is no divine intervention, no divine touch.
No, I can't say there is no divine intervention. There are people with different experience. But for me, it's not. But
I like how you try to play it safe. What happened to you, man?
Yeah, it's differently. You can't. But I can say this today because when you reflect and look at other people like he is, this is the latest thing. You see that anything is possible. You might, even if you look at people like Sam Harris.
He went on a trip.
No, I might be here, but there might be something beyond us. So I wouldn't want to say it's totally false. But to convince me to follow the kind of God which is being followed by the Christians now, it's very difficult. But maybe if you allow me to mold my one, I can mold my one.
So, how do you cope now? I think,
maybe I think maybe some of the questions we might want to be asking is, for example, religion answers questions like, what happens when we die? When we die, the body decomposes, and they would ask, according to humanists, is there life after death? Someone is tempted to say there is no life after death, but I'm a different kind of a humanist. I'm a different kind of an atheist. There is life after death, but in which form? There's so many ways of immortalizing yourself. You have to work on it. You have to immortalize yourself. You have to immortalize yourself. How do you immortalize yourself? Write something.
Create something.
When people they are reading your works, even when you are gone, you are still alive. You live in their mind.
Yeah, your voice lives on. Yeah.
Then you also stay in your offsprings. Because if you look at ourselves, all our ancestors are in us. That's still alive through us. That's life after death.
Just not a biological life.
Of course, even a Christian, I don't think they say there's biological life after death.
Well, but then they say your bodies will be resurrected and you will.
So I don't know, but this is an interesting idea. Surely say that surely there is life after death.
I have come across that I think immortality projects, right? I think that's what we're all striving for. Now that you brought into this question, you brought in this question, your life after death. Would you want to go to heaven? Suppose heaven was real.
Of course, I would like to go.
I
think I listened to the pontiff of the Catholic Church, the Pope, said if he, at some point he was asked, do you think atheists can go to heaven? He said yes, because they say denga racho rinopindwa on account of doing good works. Then my question would be, kudenga kunonzika kuti ngonamata always, I think it will be boring for atheists there.
Yeah, because I can't be worshipping something for
So I
for
think
eternity.
It will be boring for atheists to be in heaven.
Like even if you're the dawn, the creator, like, hey man, worshipping you forever and ever.
So I think it will be boring. It will be boring.
And scary too, knowing that he's watching you all the time. Because I think heaven would be more like the world in 1984, right? Big Brother is watching you, always watching you, and he expects you to express all emotion.
Because another thing which also gives some momentum to humanism as a point and the atheism and ourselves is the change of goals, where people say there is hell, but we the Anglican Church say no, there's no hell. The Catholic Church said also two people said there's no hell. And there was also a doctrine of limbo, they said there's no limbo. There was also a doctrine of purgatory, they said there's no purgatory. So
No one knows.
Things are changing. So the concept of heaven, even when it is said, I said Jesus was a wonderful person, very wise. I think at some point in the gospel he was asked, where is heaven? Then he said, heaven is among yourself if you are living without problems. So heaven might be a state of life free of problems. Hell might be a state of life
Full of problems.
full of problems.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's round this up. You ran away from some of the important questions that I wanted you to talk about.
No, you can say them and I can briefly answer.
Oh, you ran away from them. I asked you.
I didn't run away. I'll ask them again. And I can repeat my response if
Do you believe in the existence of the Christian God? Do you believe in the virgin birth, that Jesus was born of God, was the Son of God? Do you believe in all that junk?
Alright. I don't take those things literally.
So you
I
don't-
consider myself
so
a
you
cultural.
don't believe in them.
I consider myself a cultural Catholic.
So you don't believe in them.
I enjoy the way it is being celebrated, but I don't agree with the core concept of the thing. But I enjoy the way it is being celebrated.
Now that's another thing. To enjoy, I enjoy Spider-Man, but if someone was to ask me, do you believe Spider-Man is real? I'll be like, of course not.
Yeah, but
I don't know why.
real in the movie.
That's of course he is in the movie, but in real life, no. That much I know for a fact. So I fail to understand why it's that simple for you. Because you, first of all, you're the one who agrees that Christianity is a human concept that was created.
Of
That
course,
was
it's for
that
human
people sit down and say, let's put these words, let's tell this story like this, right? And yet, when it comes to the simple thing, then do you believe that Jesus was born of a virgin, Jesus is the Son of God, and do you believe in the existence of a Christian God? For some reason, you waffle around.
it's not too waffling. I'm being scientific. When you don't know in science, you say I don't know.
Do you believe?
This
is not a scientific question. It's
I
do you believe in it? Like scientists, science doesn't care what you believe. Science only cares about what is. The question is, do you believe Jesus was born of a virgin?
All right. Unfortunately, I said, as a humanist sympathist, the question of belief is outside.
What do you mean outside?
I don't have to believe. It's unnecessary to believe in.
Like I said, you ran away. Do you believe Spider-Man is real?
Spider-Man, at least in a movie, yes.
But is he real in real life? Is there a Peter Parker somewhere out there in this world, in this particular reality?
Yeah, Unfortunately, I can only answer that he exists in the
I think there's a lot that you have to start having a conversation with yourself on, man. But anyways, thanks for joining me. And I think they'll be joining us for the next episode. I think we'll keep on advancing and talking about these things, just opening up to get to understand how. I think the most important thing now is how to live a good life. So you have said that the idea of God is not important. I don't believe in God. I'm very bold about that.
You can say that, and you can be challenged with you.
Fortunately, I have. That's the beauty of being a scientist. At least I get to play around with these chemicals in the lab. So I have actually.
You've seen, how did you see the oxygen?
We tested it for the second. There's oxygen.
It has test.
Yeah, we tested it. There are basic tests that you apply. You want to test for the presence of oxygen, you do A, B, C. Or what is oxygen? Oxygen is an element with these properties. How do we know? We know because A, B, C. Okay, how do we test for it? We use a burning split. It's that simple. Does God exist? We don't know. How do we test for God? Oh, sorry, we don't have a test for God. Okay, so how did we make that postulate that God exists? What did we observe in the universe that made us say God exists?
Look at the universe. They said that's after
argument from personal incredulity. We will accept that and say, okay,
they would ask you where did life come from?
Where did life come from? We don't know. We are still investigating.
Then they say, if you don't know, it's God.
If you don't know it's God, where did God come from? That's exactly the conversation that we wanted to have. Where did God come from?
Then they'll say, we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, the same way you said, you don't know where life came from.
But we experience life. But we are investigating life. Are you investigating God? They're not. They just accept that He exists.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
It's not.
That's the problem.
They will tell you that God is not an object of investigation.
But then the statement that God exists is a scientific statement. That opens Him up to be an object for investigation.
Yeah, to people who are not believers.
Not to anyone. If you believe in God and you say, "Dear Lord, I'm praying to you," you're already opening Him up as an object for investigation. You choosing to use prayer as a method of investigation. Because you say, "God, I'm seeking you out," right? That's your method of investigation. And we always ask you, does He speak back to you in voices? I've never heard anyone say it. I've come across a lot of people who say A, B, C, D and all that, but none of those stories are verifiable.
Yeah.
Because this is the world that we live in. We live in a physical world where physical consequences are experienced, material consequences.
For example, how did you become an atheist?
I don't quite remember how I became an atheist. But I do remember when I first came across the word atheist.
Even if you don't go further, that is the same argument they can give.
I'm trying to...
What I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to convince you to be religious. I'm trying to make you be in their shoes.
I've been in their shoes.
They cannot explain certain things, but they're so sure about it. You cannot explain how you became an atheist.
I didn't say I can't explain.
What did you say?
I say I don't quite remember, but I remember traces of atheist thought in me. Right? In grade 4, I remember I was at church, end time message, William Branham's church. I remember the Sunday school teacher, they chucked me out. I was like, no, Manawenya Chamudi Sunday school, because I was asking too many questions. That was the first time I remember actually starting to ask. But these things, they're not making sense, right? And then later on, I started calling myself a freelancer. That was around Form 2. I didn't know, at that time, the word atheist wasn't even in my vocabulary. When someone asked me, what do you believe in? I'll say, I'm a freelancer. I didn't know. And then It was only around Form 5.
Mm.
I think that's when I now had access to the internet. That's also when we joined Facebook. That was around 2011, thereabout. That's when I started interacting with the world outside. I started realizing, okay, people who don't believe in God are atheists. But at the time, I wasn't an atheist. I didn't buy into the atheist argument. I fell more on the anti-theist argument. I hated the idea of God. In fact, I think that was at my rebellious stage. And that was,
You hated the idea.
yeah, I hated it. I hated the
Probably
idea of
because
something.
of the way it was presented to you, bro.
Yeah, I think obviously you hate something based on how it's presented to you. I hated it.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I mocked that like religion a lot. Then after that I became an atheist. What I hated about atheism is someone asked me at some point, okay, you're an atheist, so what? I couldn't answer that question. So what? What do you believe in? Right? That's when I started modifying my belief. What exactly do I believe in? I realized I was more fascinated by the human spirit, by human arrogance, and that's where the name of the podcast came from, humanist hubris. That arrogance to say I believe in humanity. And
You don't have to believe in humanity.
I don't have to, but I want to.
Yeah, but you don't have to believe in what you are saying.
I want to.
Believe it doesn't mean you're not so sure.
Hmm?
You're not so sure.
I'm not so sure of the human limits. I'm not even sure of what we're capable of. I'm not sure of what I'm capable of.
Trust, I think maybe trust is better than believing.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's a question of limited vocabulary, right? But I believe in myself, and because I don't think I can say
Believe in yourself, or you feel that you're responsible for it. Believe, I think, maybe it's a religious hangover, I think,
maybe.
of using religious terms.
Like I said, limited vocabulary, man. What I know is
Because if I say, I believe I will arrive in Harare tomorrow by 12, I'm not so sure.
yes,
I might not arrive by 12.
that's opening things to possibility.
Yeah. So if you say you believe in humanity,
I'm opening things to possibility because humanity has elements that are really messed up. See, part of being a humanist is you look at things. I remember this was Teilhard who said something like this, like humanity has to be studied as an object of science, like as we study any other phenomenon, right?
but you know who he was?
Of course, you're gonna tell me that he was a priest. I know.
He was a Jesuit principal and introduced.
He was very objective about how he looked at humanity. And I'm very objective at how I look at myself. There are certain things like that you see, okay, our species is going the wrong side here. But we choose to want to nature the good. Right? We have that responsibility to believe that the good in us is still worth fighting for. We don't have proof that it's worth fighting for, right? But we know that this is the one life we have. We know that we are here now.
Yeah, but if you say don't you have proof, we have proof.
Do we have proof that it's worth fighting for?
Yes.
Or we choose to?
Yeah. The way we are enjoying life is a good proof.
That's all the proof we need, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I like that. I guess it's a proof that we have to. It's a proof that we have to learn to grasp and to appreciate. And once it's a difficult conversation to have, but necessary.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, so man, thanks for watching. As you can see, we will keep having these conversations. Difficult as they may be, we'll keep having them. And if you're watching, again, thanks, man. next episode, right?